technically it's more than 6 if you single out every offensive lineman.
That's true. So let's start there. Offensive line, F. I think most people would say that's warranted. You gave them an F. Obviously, they did not play very well. Who were the main culprits for them to be drug into an F?
I mean, who wasn't? Jason Kelsey disappointed me. I mean, I'm a big fan of his. I like what he brings and what he does, but he got blown up several times. You know, and you look down the line and bad penalties at the guys as well. You know, Lane Johnson was disappointing. I mean, certainly Andrew Gardner and Alan Barbary were not on the same page with some of the other guys on the line, and I think that might be part of the biggest problem. And then, you know, you start wondering, 2 weeks in a row, are these guys tipping off something that is allowing the defense to – has the league caught on that there's something that is tipping off the defensive line and the linebackers which way the play is going? Because it certainly looks like the defense knows what's coming.
Well, I'll tell you, if you're a linebacker, and you know, look, going back to the basic form of football, you're playing middle linebacker, a lot of times they'll tell that guy, follow the fullback. Well, the Eagles don't have a fullback to follow, so if DeMarco goes left, the linebacker's going to go with him, and there's nobody there in front of him. So it's a very basic run game that is very predicated on technique and execution, and they are not very good in technique or execution right now.
No, not at all. And you're absolutely right about that, which is why I was saying last year, why were they not at least occasionally throwing McCoy and Sproles out there at the same time? And now, why are you not – I mean, Ryan Matthews has a total of maybe 2 or 3 carries through the first 2 games. Why are you not putting Murray and Matthews out there just to, I don't know, confuse the defense slightly and give, you know, one of the 2 guys an opportunity to bust through somewhere?
Grayson's grades. All right, let's go through. You gave DeMarco Murray an F. You know, I thought that was a little hard. I know his numbers weren't there, but he played with a lot of passion and energy at least. He seemed like the one guy who did give a damn. I don't know that it was a lot of his fault, which you did chronicle in there that it's not entirely his fault. But why an F for Murray?
There were a couple times, and Chip Kelly acknowledged this too, that there were a couple times where, you know, he didn't want to go so far as to call it a hole, but there was an opportunity that Murray, you know, might have missed. And I think some of that comes from he's in a new system. He didn't really play in the preseason very much, and therefore the amount of reps and opportunities to run certain plays in a live situation have not really come his way. So he's still trying to feel his way through this. And no, it's not entirely his fault. My God, he was getting the ball, and as soon as he was trying to put his eyes on where he was going to try to go, he was getting hit. And that's, you know, not his fault. But all in all, I mean, look, in terms of being a leader and things like that he needs to be on this team as well. He acknowledged after the game in the locker room, you know, he's not pointing fingers at anybody, and it all starts with him in his mind. So, you know, he's a guy who's critical of himself, and I just did through 2 weeks, and I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt last week, and this time it's, you know, he's doing what he can through the passing game, but he's got to find a way to, you know, the 2 runs, the 2 yards, and, I mean, his negative yardage, it's, again, not his fault entirely, but, hey, he's the guy carrying it, and therefore I'm giving him some of the blame.
Grayson's grades, 6 Fs he hands out. Another one, Jordan Matthews, 6 catches, 60 yards, but those drops, I guess, put him in the F.
I mean, you have to look at how did he get those 6 receptions and 80 yards. A lot of it was when the Cowboys had decided, yeah, we got a big enough lead, we're going to play soft. And they just, hey, we're not giving up touchdowns, we're just trying to keep the ball in front of us, and that's where Matthews honestly recorded a bunch of those yards. He dropped a key 3rd down pass that would have looked like moved the sticks. And he had a couple of receptions in a row, the drops in a row, really kind of ticked me off. And I love Jordan Matthews. I love the way he approaches the game. I love his work ethic. I think he's got a lot to bring, but in this particular game, the drops were very costly, and I docked him for it. I just think getting all those yards and the receptions and the touchdown at the end were not really what he needs to be doing. He needs to be doing that stuff earlier in the game.
I don't have a problem. You're a number 1 receiver. You can't have the drop. And he has drops in bad moments. It's not 1st down and 10. He's dropping them on 3rd down. He's dropping them in really key spots. He's dropped the one ball that led to an interception. I mean, he's had some drops in some real inopportune times. All right, Zach Ertz, another F. Another guy who I think the Eagles counted on. He's a 3rd-year player now. Come on, we need to start seeing him be a bigger part of this offense. And he has a drop yesterday that ends up getting intercepted.
Yeah, and that's particularly the main reason why he got the F. He was targeted 7 times. I believe 1 was a bad throw by Bradford. So let's give him that one. But then there's 6 then that went by him and only caught 3 for 17 yards. And the one, of course, that led to that basically was an interception off his hands. That's costly. You're not only a drop, it's a turnover. It gives the other team the ball when you're trying to go down the field. Every time this team tried and looked like they had an opportunity, and I mean, boy, the Cowboys gave them plenty of opportunities in this game. They couldn't do anything. And it's just, it comes down to the drop passes, all that. This offense is predicated on getting into a rhythm. Dropped passes is one quick way to get out of any kind of rhythm in this offense.
All right, last player to get an F was Byron Maxwell. I don't think a lot of people would have a lot of issue with that. Can he get out of the F category? He's been down there close the last couple of weeks. Do you see him improving at all, or do you think this is going to be a monumental bust?
I was one of the supporters of Maxwell, and now I'm starting to hedge my bets a little bit and back off, pump the brakes a little bit, and think maybe this isn't going to work. I mean, he baits the quarterback into throwing to his side. You could see it on the pass where he broke up, where he came in, and the receiver actually put their hands on the ball, and he batted it down at that point. He baits the quarterback and wants him to. It looks like he really wants him to throw his way. And he said after the game, let him keep picking on me, bring it. Okay, but then let's do something about it to keep and say, hey, you're not throwing my side because I'm knocking it away. And the touchdown that went against him was so aggravating for me. I had Maxwell with, I think, a D, and when that touchdown went by and the amount of cushion that he had given, and then down in the locker room, he admitted that it was a zero, safety call where he knows he has nobody behind him. He left such a cushion there. I mean, I don't know what he was doing there, honestly. And at that point, I said, this is definitely an F. There's no doubt about it anymore. He's got to pick it up.
After the game in the locker room, I saw the picture. A lot of people have tweeted out the picture of him kind of smiling on his way in. What kind of presence does he have after that loss? What kind of reaction does he have after a game where, quite frankly, they'll look terrible, and you see a picture with him kind of laughing and smiling on the way in? What is your feeling on, just the way he carried himself after a game like that?
Yeah, it's funny. His locker is exactly where Kerry Williams' locker was. His behavior and the things he said after the game are exactly what Kerry Williams was saying. His mannerisms, to me, it's still early on trying to figure out, who he is and what he's like at this point. But the early returns say he's a lot like Kerry Williams in terms of the way he handles himself. And that's a little bit of a scary thought because, you see a guy like Malcolm Jenkins. He is one of the last guys to leave the locker room every time. You can tell he cares. You can tell that this stuff leaves and resonates with him. This kind of performance will stick with him and will be something he looks to rectify. With Maxwell, I'm not saying he didn't care because, he does care, but I think a lot of them, not a lot of them, I don't want to lump anybody else into this. In terms of what I got away from Maxwell and talking to him last night, well, we were on the field for 70 plays. What do you expect? Is kind of what I got. We were on the field for 40 minutes. How are you going to blame us? Yeah, and it's not that there was finger pointing, and I'm not trying to say he was, but the body language, those kind of things almost felt like that's what I was getting out of him.
Oh, and Chip Kelly did agree with him today. He said, yeah, we were out there for 85 plays, so I don't know. Maybe is he covered up for Maxwell, or is already the fans have turned on Maxwell? We'll see.
The thing that I would like to say to Maxwell, if I could, was let everybody else get your back and say that. Because I know, I was tweeting out during the game, time of possession, as it kept ticking down and ticking up, I should say, how much the defense was on the field. Let everybody else say, hey, look at how much that defense was on the field. You're not going to have success with that. But, when you go and say it, then it looks like you're whining. It's kind of the impression I got.
All right, last F was Chip Kelly. I don't know that there's going to be too many people to argue with that. Is it a concern? You've seen this team all last year. You covered them, training camp. This year, training camp. You've seen them now yesterday. Is Chip Kelly getting an F because people are starting to figure out Chip Kelly? Is Chip Kelly getting an F because Chip Kelly, the GM, made some mistakes? Why Chip Kelly an F?
I was strictly grading him as Chip Kelly, the coach. I'm not ready to go into the Chip Kelly, the GM thing until we get later in the season. But at this point, Chip Kelly, the coach, and it was interesting. I tweeted this out, too. We waited as long as we've waited for Chip Kelly to come out last night was the longest that we had waited in the media for him to come out. And it begged the question, what was going on in the locker room? Some people in the media were actually sitting there talking to each other. We were kind of like, what's going on here? Why is he taking so long? Is he actually saying something to the team? Is he, ripping the paint off the wall? What's going on in there? And perhaps he finally is, to me, it's do or die time for Chip Kelly. How are you going to rally this team? How are you going to get them back? Something's not right clearly in your offense. How will you fix it? And it all starts with the offensive line. He's got to get those guys on the same page. Then you can trickle down and start saying, well, Murray's not hitting the holes. Bradford's not completing the passes. The receivers aren't holding on to the ball. It all starts there. And the rhythm and the play calling to me has been very questionable. How do you start first down on each drive in the first quarter with a DeMarco Murray run? The Cowboys knew it was coming. I was sitting there in a press box looking down on the field going, oh, this will be a Murray run. You've got to switch things up. You've got to keep the defense on its toes, and they're not doing that right now. To me, that's not so much the scheme. I like the offense that he wants to run here, but it's the execution, it's the play calling, and when something's not working, he gives up on it. The run, yes, he'll say, we have to run the ball more. Okay. But you've got to then set up the run with the pass a little bit. And now it could come down to, okay, receivers aren't holding on to the ball, and you can certainly knock that side of it, I guess. But he's got to find a way. It's on him. He's the head coach. He's the guy calling the plays. That's why Chip Kelly, in my mind, gets an F. And if I could have given him a lower grade, I might have even done that.
All right, Grayson's grades, they're all posted. No A's, a bunch of B's. Some guys did play well yesterday. 1 C and 2 D's. Find out who they were over at 97.3 ESPN.com. That's Scott Grayson's with Grayson's grades after every Eagles game, and Scott will be at Eagles-Jets this weekend. Hey, Tebow played well. Never mind. They did play in that preseason game a couple of weeks ago, and that's a weird thing. They matched up just a couple of weeks ago in the preseason, but as we know, don't take the preseason, take it with a grain of salt. All right, Scott, we'll be checking out the grades for Eagles-Jets.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. Hopefully, in this time they can fix whatever's going on, and they seem to feel they can. So, I know you've been saying before, it's still early. It is only 2 weeks in, but this can't keep going.